After her mom, a secret billionaire, died, her husband divorced her to marry her best friend. Maya Williams had just buried her mother when Marcus and Jasmine delivered the crushing blow that shattered what remained of her world. They walked away thinking they had left behind a woman with nothing, but her mother had been hiding something extraordinary for 30 years. As Maya began to uncover the truth, she realized that their betrayal had actually freed her to discover who she really was. What Marcus and Jasmine didn't know was that they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives by choosing the worst possible time to underestimate her. If you love stories about justice and powerful comebacks, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like and comment where you're watching from: Texas, New York, London, or Berlin. Now, let's get into this story because Maya's transformation is about to change everything. The sterile hospital room felt smaller with each labored breath Eleanor Williams took. Maya sat beside the narrow bed, her fingers intertwined with her mother's frail hand, watching the monitor's steady beep that had become the soundtrack to their final hours together. At 32, Maya had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing had prepared her for the weight of watching the woman who raised her single-handedly slip away. The medical bills scattered across the bedside table served as a cruel reminder of their financial struggles, each invoice a testament to Eleanor's determination to fight until the very end. Eleanor's eyes fluttered open, focusing on her daughter's face with a clarity that had been absent for days. Her voice came as barely a whisper, forcing Maya to lean closer to catch every precious word. "Baby girl, listen to me carefully. When you get home, go to my bedroom closet. Behind the winter coats, there's a wooden box. Find it." Maya nodded, assuming her mother was referring to old photographs or letters she wanted preserved. "Promise me you'll look inside. I'm sorry I kept so much from you, but I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong." The monitor's beeping grew irregular, and Maya felt her mother's grip tighten one last time before the hand went limp. The drive back to their modest apartment in Chicago's South Side felt endless, even though Maya had made this journey from the hospital countless times over the past month. The October wind cut through her jacket as she climbed the stairs to the second floor, dreading the emptiness that would greet her inside. She fumbled with the keys, her hands still trembling from the emotional exhaustion of saying goodbye. The apartment that had always felt cozy now seemed hollow without her mother's presence, filled with the silence of unfinished conversations and the lingering scent of Eleanor's favorite lavender lotion. Maya expected Marcus to be waiting with open arms and words of comfort, but the living room was empty, except for the stack of sympathy cards that neighbors had dropped off. Her husband's absence stung more than she wanted to admit, especially on a day when she needed his support most desperately. She called out his name, but only her own voice echoed back from the kitchen, where dirty dishes sat abandoned in the sink. The silence felt accusatory, as if even the apartment was judging her for expecting too much from the people in her life. Her phone buzzed with a text message, and Maya's heart lifted momentarily, hoping it was Marcus explaining his whereabouts. Instead, she found a message from Jasmine, her best friend since college. "Hey, hun, I know today was rough. Marcus told me about your mom. I'm here if you need anything." Maya frowned at the phrasing, wondering when Marcus had spoken to Jasmine and why he hadn't reached out to her directly. The two had become closer recently, often texting about work stress and weekend plans, but something about the timing felt off. She pushed the uncomfortable feeling aside, attributing it to grief clouding her judgment. The bedroom felt foreign without her mother's medical equipment and prescription bottles cluttering the nightstand. Maya moved toward the closet with heavy steps, remembering Eleanor's urgent words about the mysterious wooden box. She pushed aside the familiar winter coats that still carried traces of her mother's perfume, searching the back wall until her fingers found something solid. The box was smaller than she expected, crafted from dark mahogany with intricate carvings along the edges. It felt substantial in her hands, heavier than its size suggested, as if it contained more than just sentimental keepsakes. Inside, Maya discovered documents that made no immediate sense. Property deeds, investment statements, and legal papers bearing her mother's name alongside names she didn't recognize. A handwritten letter lay folded beneath the official documents, written in Eleanor's careful script. "My dearest Maya," it began, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and it's time for you to know the truth about who I really was." Maya's hands trembled as she continued reading, each sentence revealing a side of her mother she never knew existed. The woman she thought had struggled financially her entire life had actually been living under an assumed identity, hiding a fortune that could change everything. The front door slammed shut, startling Maya from her reading. She quickly closed the box and shoved it under the bed as Marcus's voice carried down the hallway. "Maya, you home?" His tone was different somehow, lacking the tenderness she needed after such a difficult day. When he appeared in the bedroom doorway, his expression was guarded rather than sympathetic, as if he was preparing for an uncomfortable conversation instead of comforting his grieving wife. "We need to talk," he said, avoiding eye contact as he perched on the edge of the bed they had shared for 6 years. Marcus's words hit her like a physical blow, each sentence carefully rehearsed and delivered with clinical precision. He spoke about growing apart, about finding happiness elsewhere, about needing to be honest about his feelings for someone else. Maya sat in stunned silence as her husband explained that he and Jasmine had developed a connection over the past 8 months, starting as emotional support that gradually blossomed into something deeper. "I didn't plan for this to happen," Marcus said, though his lack of remorse suggested otherwise. "But I can't keep pretending anymore. Jasmine understands me in ways that you never could." The cruel timing of his confession felt like salt in an open wound, delivered on the very day Maya had buried her mother and discovered earth-shattering secrets about her family's past. As Marcus gathered his belongings and spoke casually about divorce proceedings, Maya realized that the two people she trusted most in the world had been plotting her emotional destruction while she sat vigil beside her dying mother. The box hidden under the bed seemed to pulse with possibility, containing answers to questions she hadn't even known to ask. For the first time in years, Maya felt a spark of something other than resignation, a quiet determination that whispered promises of change. The morning after Marcus left, Maya sat at her kitchen table staring at the divorce papers he had served her with ruthless efficiency. The legal document felt surreal in her hands, transforming 6 years of marriage into a series of cold, bureaucratic clauses about asset division and separation terms. She had barely slept, her mind racing between grief for her mother and shock at her husband's betrayal. The empty coffee mug beside her had grown cold hours ago, but she couldn't summon the energy to refill it. Instead, she found herself drawn repeatedly to the bedroom where Eleanor's mysterious box waited beneath the bed, promising answers to questions that might reshape her understanding of everything. Retrieving the mahogany box felt like opening Pandora's container, but Maya knew there was no turning back from whatever truths her mother had hidden for 3 decades. She spread the contents across her bedsheets with trembling fingers, organizing documents by date and relevance. The property deeds revealed ownership of buildings throughout Chicago and New York under the name Eleanor Montgomery, not Williams as Maya had always known. Investment portfolio showed a diversified financial empire worth millions, carefully managed through offshore accounts and shell companies. Each document painted a picture of a woman who had deliberately erased her past to create a new identity, living modestly while accumulating wealth in secret. Eleanor's handwritten letter provided the missing context that transformed scattered legal papers into a cohesive narrative of sacrifice and protection. I was born Eleanor Montgomery, daughter of Richard Montgomery, who built half of downtown Chicago in the 1960s, the letter explained in her mother's precise handwriting. When my father died, he left me everything, but his business partners wanted to force me into a marriage that would have given them control of the empire. I chose freedom over fortune, or so I thought at the time. Maya read on, discovering that her mother had legally changed her identity and moved to a different neighborhood, working as a nurse while secretly maintaining ownership of her inheritance through a complex web of legal arrangements. The revelation that Eleanor had been wealthy all along recontextualized every struggle Maya remembered from her childhood. The secondhand clothes, the shared bedroom in their tiny apartment, the constant worry about bills and expenses, all of it had been an elaborate performance designed to keep them safe from people who might exploit their true circumstances. I wanted to give you a normal life, Eleanor had written. Money changes people, attracts the wrong kind of attention. I thought if I could raise you away from that world, you would grow up strong and independent, valued for who you are rather than what you might inherit. The letter went on to explain that Eleanor had been carefully monitoring Maya's life, secretly funding her college education through anonymous scholarships and ensuring her path remained clear of financial obstacles. Maya's phone rang, interrupting her absorption in these revelations. Charles Thompson, a lawyer she had never heard of, introduced himself as her mother's longtime legal counsel and requested an immediate meeting to discuss Eleanor's estate. His office occupied the top floor of a gleaming downtown building that Maya had passed countless times without imagining she had any connection to such wealth. Thompson, a distinguished man in his mid-60s with silver hair and a gentle demeanor, greeted her with genuine sympathy for her loss before leading her into a conference room overlooking Lake Michigan. The view alone suggested a level of affluence that made Maya feel like an imposter in her own life. Thompson confirmed what the documents had already revealed, but the scope of Eleanor's wealth far exceeded Maya's initial estimates. Your mother was remarkably astute with investments, he explained, sliding a comprehensive portfolio across the mahogany table. The current value of her holdings approaches $2.8 billion, including real estate, stocks, bonds, and several private equity investments. Maya felt dizzy as Thompson outlined properties she now owned in Chicago's most prestigious neighborhoods, apartment buildings in Manhattan, and a diversified investment portfolio that generated millions in passive income annually. The numbers seemed abstract, like discussing the gross domestic product of a small country rather than her personal inheritance. The lawyer explained that Eleanor had structured everything to ensure Maya's anonymity and protection. All properties were held through limited liability companies, investments were managed through trust funds, and legal protections were in place to prevent anyone from tracing the wealth back to Maya personally. Your mother insisted on a 6-month confidentiality period, Thompson noted, during which you can decide how much of this information to make public, if any. She wanted you to have time to process this change without external pressure from people who might suddenly show interest in your friendship. The pointed reference to opportunistic relationships felt particularly relevant given Marcus and Jasmine's recent betrayal. Maya learned that Eleanor had been quietly supporting her from a distance for years, using various foundations and scholarship programs to ease financial burdens without Maya's knowledge. The prestigious teaching position she had landed after college, the affordable apartment she had found in a competitive market, even the low interest rate on her student loans, all had been influenced by Eleanor's behind-the-scenes maneuvering. She was incredibly proud of your independence, Thompson said with a warm smile. Eleanor often said that watching you build your own life without relying on family wealth proved she had raised you correctly. She wanted you to discover your own strength before inheriting hers. As Thompson outlined the practical aspects of managing such substantial assets, Maya's mind drifted to Marcus and Jasmine, who were undoubtedly planning their future together while she dealt with funeral arrangements and legal paperwork. The irony of their timing struck her as particularly cruel. They had abandoned her at the moment when she needed support most, unaware that she was about to become one of the wealthiest women in Chicago. She thought about Marcus's dismissive comments regarding their financial struggles and Jasmine's subtle suggestions that Maya should find a more ambitious partner. Their shallow motivations would soon be tested in ways they could never anticipate. Thompson handed her a set of keys and access cards along with contact information for various property managers and financial advisors. Your mother left detailed instructions for gradually assuming control of her business interests, he explained. She suggested starting with the smaller properties and working your way up to the more complex investments. There's no rush. The management companies have been running everything efficiently for years. Maya pocketed the keys, feeling their weight as a symbol of the power she now possessed. For the first time since Marcus had delivered his devastating news, she felt something other than despair. A cold, calculating satisfaction that whispered possibilities for justice. Walking back to her apartment, Maya observed the city with new eyes, recognizing buildings and neighborhoods that now belonged to her. The transformation felt surreal, as if she were viewing her life through someone else's perspective. She thought about Eleanor's sacrifice, choosing love and authenticity over comfort and security, only to spend decades accumulating both in secret. The lesson wasn't lost on Maya. Sometimes the people who truly love you make decisions that seem harsh but ultimately serve your greater good. As she climbed the stairs to her modest apartment, Maya began formulating a plan that would honor her mother's memory, while ensuring that those who had betrayed her trust would face appropriate consequences. The evening brought unexpected clarity as Maya sat surrounded by legal documents that represented more power than she had ever imagined possessing. She realized that Marcus and Jasmine's betrayal, while painful, had actually freed her from relationships built on false foundations. Their timing had been cruel, but ultimately revealing. They had shown their true characters at the moment when she needed them most. Now, armed with resources they couldn't fathom and motivated by a sense of justice that burned stronger than revenge, Maya began to understand that her real journey was just beginning. The scared, grieving woman of yesterday was transforming into someone who would never again allow others to underestimate her worth. Maya spent the following week immersed in a careful study of her new circumstances, transforming her grief into focused determination. She canceled her teaching obligations, claiming bereavement leave, while secretly using the time to understand the vast network of businesses and properties she now controlled. Each morning brought fresh revelations about Eleanor's sophisticated financial empire, revealing a woman who had been far more strategic and influential than Maya could have imagined. The apartment that once felt cramped now served as her war room, with legal documents and financial statements covering every surface as she mapped out the connections between her various holdings and the people who had betrayed her trust. Her first strategic move involved hiring Rebecca Chen, a private investigator recommended by Thompson's law firm. Rebecca specialized in corporate fraud and personal background checks, with a reputation for discretion that made her perfect for Maya's purposes. During their initial meeting at a downtown coffee shop, Maya carefully explained her situation without revealing the full extent of her newfound wealth. She needed detailed information about Marcus and Jasmine's activities, their financial situations, and their professional vulnerabilities. Rebecca's calm professionalism and sharp questions demonstrated exactly why Thompson had recommended her services for sensitive matters requiring absolute confidentiality. The investigation yielded results faster than Maya had anticipated, painting a picture of calculated deception that extended far beyond simple adultery. Marcus had been skimming small amounts from his accounting firm's client accounts for over a year, using sophisticated techniques to hide the theft through delayed deposits and altered records. His relationship with Jasmine had begun during a company mixer where she had specifically targeted him after learning about his access to client funds. Their affair wasn't born from genuine passion, but from mutual opportunism. Jasmine needed financial backing for an independent marketing consultancy, while Marcus craved validation from someone who appreciated his willingness to bend ethical boundaries for personal gain. Rebecca's research revealed that Jasmine was competing for a senior marketing director position at Meridian Industries, one of Chicago's fastest-growing tech companies. The role represented everything Jasmine had been working toward: prestige, substantial salary increase, and the professional recognition she desperately craved. What made this information particularly valuable to Maya was discovering that Meridian Industries leased their corporate headquarters from Montgomery Properties, one of Eleanor's original real estate investments. Through a series of shell companies and management firms, Maya effectively controlled Jasmine's professional destiny without anyone being aware of the connection. Armed with this intelligence, Maya began implementing a strategy that would dismantle her betrayers' lives with the same methodical precision they had used to destroy hers. She started with Marcus, using her connection to Thompson's law firm to ensure that his accounting firm received an anonymous tip about irregular client account activities. The information was presented as a concerned whistleblower report, complete with documentation that Rebecca had helped Maya compile from public records and financial databases. The firm's partners had no choice but to investigate, and Marcus's carefully concealed theft began unraveling under professional scrutiny. Simultaneously, Maya leveraged her new position as a property owner to influence Jasmine's career prospects at Meridian Industries. Through the property management company, she arranged for a surprise inspection of Meridian's offices that revealed several minor lease violations that could potentially affect their expansion plans. During the subsequent negotiations, Maya's representatives subtly suggested that the company might benefit from hiring more experienced marketing leadership, specifically mentioning a highly qualified candidate who had recently impressed several major clients. This candidate happened to be Jasmine's primary competitor for the director position, someone whose qualifications were marginally superior and whose background check would reveal no concerning personal complications. While orchestrating these professional consequences, Maya began her personal transformation with the same strategic thinking she applied to dismantling her enemies. She hired Elena Rodriguez, a personal stylist and image consultant who specialized in helping women navigate significant life transitions. Elena's approach went beyond superficial changes, focusing on building confidence through wardrobe choices that reflected Maya's new reality while maintaining her authentic personality. The transformation process felt empowering rather than artificial, as if Maya were finally allowing her true self to emerge from years of financial constraint and emotional suppression. The physical changes were accompanied by educational investments that would prepare Maya for her expanded responsibilities as a major property owner and investor. She enrolled in executive education courses at Northwestern's Business School, studying real estate development, financial management, and corporate governance. Her professors and classmates saw an exceptionally motivated student who asked insightful questions and demonstrated natural aptitude for complex business concepts. None of them suspected that she was already applying these lessons to manage a multi-billion-dollar portfolio while simultaneously orchestrating the downfall of two people who had underestimated her resilience and intelligence. Marcus's world began crumbling 3 weeks after Maya discovered Eleanor's secrets. His firm's investigation had uncovered enough evidence to warrant criminal charges, and his professional reputation was destroyed overnight. The local business community buzzed with scandal as details of his embezzlement emerged through carefully orchestrated leaks to financial journalists. Jasmine watched her boyfriend's disgrace with growing alarm, realizing that her association with him might damage her own career prospects. Their relationship faced its first serious test as financial pressure mounted and Marcus's confident facade cracked under legal scrutiny. The stress intensified when Jasmine learned that she had not been selected for the Meridian Industries position, despite what seemed like a guaranteed promotion based on her performance and connections. The hiring manager delivered vague explanations about finding someone with broader experience, leaving Jasmine confused and frustrated by the inexplicable rejection. Her current employer, sensing her desperation to leave, began reducing her responsibilities and hinting at budget cuts that might affect her position. The professional setbacks came at the worst possible time, just as she and Marcus were planning to combine their resources for a shared future that now seemed increasingly uncertain. Maya observed these developments from her new vantage point as a student in Northwestern's executive program, where she had been networking with Chicago's business elite. Her classmates included successful entrepreneurs, corporate executives, and established investors who respected her thoughtful contributions to discussions about market trends and property development. Professor Williams, who taught the real estate finance course, had specifically commended Maya's analysis of gentrification patterns in South Side neighborhoods, unaware that her insights came from actually owning several properties in those areas. The academic environment provided perfect cover for her transformation while building relationships that would serve her long-term business interests. The confrontation Maya had been anticipating finally occurred on a crisp November evening when Marcus and Jasmine appeared at her apartment building, desperate enough to swallow their pride and ask for help. They had been calling and texting for days, their messages evolving from casual inquiries about her well-being to increasingly frantic requests for meetings. Maya had ignored their attempts at contact, allowing their anxiety to build while she completed her preparations for this inevitable encounter. When she finally agreed to see them, it was on her terms, in her space, with the full knowledge of what they had done and what she could do in response. Their appearance shocked Maya more than she had expected. Both looked haggard and desperate, their former confidence replaced by the hollow-eyed exhaustion of people whose carefully constructed lives were collapsing. Marcus spoke first, his voice lacking the smooth assurance she remembered from their marriage. He attempted to explain his legal troubles as a misunderstanding that would be resolved with proper representation, though his nervous fidgeting suggested he knew the truth was far more damaging. Jasmine remained mostly silent, occasionally touching Marcus's arm in gestures of support that seemed more performative than genuine. Maya let them speak without interruption, watching their discomfort grow as they struggled to justify their behavior while simultaneously asking for financial assistance. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on any of them. They had abandoned her when she appeared vulnerable and financially unstable, only to seek her help when their own circumstances became dire. When they finished their prepared speeches, Maya spoke with a calm authority that neither of them recognized from their previous interactions. She had indeed changed, but not in the ways they might have expected or hoped. "I know about the 8 months," Maya said quietly, her words cutting through their pretense like a blade through silk. "I know about the money you took from your clients, Marcus. I know about your career ambitions, Jasmine, and how you thought Marcus could fund your consulting business with other people's money." Their faces went pale as Maya continued, her voice remaining steady and controlled. I know you started your affair while my mother was dying, planning your future while I was planning her funeral. What I'm curious about is whether you thought I would never discover the truth, or whether you simply didn't care enough about me to consider the consequences. The admission hung in the air like a physical presence, transforming the dynamics of their relationship forever. Marcus began to stammer denials and excuses, but Maya raised her hand to silence him. I'm not the same woman you left 3 weeks ago, she continued, allowing a slight smile to play at the corners of her mouth. That woman believed in forgiveness and second chances. That woman thought love meant accepting betrayal in silence. The woman sitting before you now has learned some very important lessons about the difference between kindness and weakness. As she spoke these words, Maya felt the final pieces of her old self falling away, replaced by someone harder and more purposeful than she had ever imagined becoming. The silence that followed Maya's revelation stretched between them like a chasm that could never be bridged. Marcus and Jasmine exchanged glances that spoke of panic barely contained beneath their composed facades, realizing that their carefully constructed narrative of innocent love had crumbled under the weight of Maya's knowledge. The woman they had dismissed as weak and financially dependent now sat before them with an aura of quiet power that made the modest apartment feel like a courtroom where judgment was being rendered. Maya observed their discomfort with clinical detachment, noting how quickly their desperation had transformed into fear as they began to comprehend that their former victim possessed information that could destroy what remained of their reputations. Marcus attempted to salvage the situation through a combination of denial and deflection, his voice taking on the pleading tone of someone whose world was collapsing in real time. Maya, you have to understand, what happened between Jasmine and me wasn't planned. We tried to fight our feelings, but sometimes you can't control who you fall in love with. His words rang hollow in the small living room, particularly given Maya's knowledge of their calculated opportunism and financial motivations. Jasmine remained conspicuously silent, her usual confidence replaced by the nervous energy of someone calculating escape routes and damage control strategies. Her silence spoke volumes about the true nature of their relationship and her willingness to abandon Marcus the moment his usefulness expired. Maya stood slowly, walking to the window that overlooked the street where she had lived in modest obscurity, while her mother accumulated billions in secret. The irony of the moment wasn't lost on her. They were begging for help in the same apartment where they had delivered their devastating betrayal just weeks earlier. The criminal investigation into your embezzlement is moving forward, Marcus. The state attorney's office has enough evidence to pursue charges that could result in significant prison time. Her words were delivered with matter-of-fact precision, causing Marcus to go pale as he realized the scope of his exposure. Your relationship with Jasmine began 8 months ago, which conveniently coincides with when the theft started. Prosecutors love cases with clear motives and timelines. Jasmine finally found her voice, though it trembled with barely controlled panic. Maya, whatever you think you know about us, you're wrong. Marcus and I care about each other. Yes, the timing was terrible, but we never meant to hurt you. Her protest felt rehearsed, lacking the authenticity that might have made them convincing to someone who didn't possess detailed knowledge of their scheme. Maya turned from the window to face them directly, her expression showing neither anger nor satisfaction, only the cold resolve of someone who had moved beyond emotional responses to purely strategic thinking. The transformation was so complete that even she was surprised by her own capacity for calculating detachment in the face of such profound betrayal. I'm going to make you both an offer, Maya said, returning to her chair with deliberate composure. You're going to leave Chicago within the next 30 days. You'll find new cities, new jobs, new lives that don't intersect with mine in any way. Marcus will cooperate fully with the authorities, accept responsibility for his crimes, and serve whatever sentence he receives without attempting to implicate anyone else or minimize his culpability. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle before continuing. In exchange, I won't pursue civil litigation for the emotional damages you've caused, and I won't share certain information I've discovered about your relationship and its financial motivations with prosecutors who might find it relevant to establishing premeditation. The terms of Maya's offer were simultaneously generous and devastating, providing them with a path to avoid complete destruction while ensuring they would face appropriate consequences for their actions. Marcus began to object, but Maya cut him off with a gesture that brooked no argument. This isn't a negotiation. These are the consequences of your choices, and they're far more merciful than what you deserve. Her voice carried an authority that neither of them had ever heard before, reflecting the confidence that came from controlling resources and information they couldn't begin to fathom. Jasmine's composure finally cracked completely as she realized that their former victim had somehow acquired the power to dictate the terms of their future survival. The practical arrangements for their departure were handled through Thompson's law firm, which provided the legal framework necessary to ensure compliance with Maya's conditions while protecting her from any future attempts at retaliation or contact. Marcus pled guilty to embezzlement charges 3 weeks later, receiving a sentence of 18 months in federal prison, followed by supervised probation and substantial restitution payments. Jasmine accepted a marketing position with a firm in Denver, her career prospects permanently damaged by her association with the scandal and her failure to secure the promotion she had coveted. Their relationship ended acrimoniously during the stress of relocation and legal proceedings, each blaming the other for the catastrophic failure of their scheme. With her tormentors effectively banished from her life, Maya began the process of building something meaningful from her inheritance rather than simply using it as an instrument of revenge. She established the Eleanor Williams Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational opportunities for young women from disadvantaged backgrounds. The foundation's mission reflected both her mother's values and her own commitment to empowering others who might face circumstances similar to what she had endured. Working with Thompson's firm, Maya structured the organization to operate independently of her personal wealth while drawing on her resources to fund scholarships, mentorship programs, and career development initiatives. The foundation's headquarters occupied a renovated building in Maya's old neighborhood, symbolically connecting her new purpose with her authentic roots. She hired a small but dedicated staff of educators and social workers who shared her vision of creating opportunities for young women who might otherwise be overlooked or underestimated by traditional support systems. Maya's role as executive director allowed her to remain directly involved in program development while gradually building the management skills necessary to oversee her broader business interests. The work provided emotional fulfillment that pure wealth could never offer, giving her a sense of purpose that honored Eleanor's memory while creating positive change in the world. Her return to education came through an unexpected opportunity at Lincoln Academy, a prestigious private school whose board of directors included several members of Chicago's business community. Her reputation as a thoughtful investor and education advocate had spread through the network she had cultivated during her transformation, leading to an invitation to join their faculty as a specialist in curriculum development and student support services. The position allowed Maya to combine her passion for teaching with her new understanding of how educational institutions could better serve students from diverse backgrounds. Her colleagues respected her innovative approaches to learning while having no idea that their newest faculty member could have purchased the entire school without affecting her financial position. The professional fulfillment of her foundation work and teaching position was complemented by personal connections that developed naturally from her authentic engagement with meaningful causes. At a fundraising event for educational nonprofits, Maya met David Chen, an architect whose firm specialized in designing schools and community centers in underserved neighborhoods. Their initial conversation about the relationship between physical environments and learning outcomes evolved into a friendship based on shared values and complementary expertise. David's quiet passion for creating beautiful, functional spaces that serve social purposes resonated with Maya's own commitment to using resources thoughtfully and purposefully. 6 months after Eleanor's death, Maya stood in her new office overlooking Lake Michigan, surrounded by architectural plans for the foundation's expanded programs and correspondence from scholarship recipients whose lives were being transformed by her mother's hidden legacy. The view from the 42nd floor represented everything Eleanor had worked to build while maintaining the humility and authenticity that had shaped Maya's character. The woman reflected in the office windows bore little resemblance to the grieving teacher who had discovered her husband's betrayal in a cramped apartment. Yet she retained the core values and compassion that made her worthy of the trust Eleanor had placed in her. Her computer chimed with an incoming email from a young woman named Keisha, a scholarship recipient who was struggling to balance college coursework with the need to support her family financially. The message described challenges Maya recognized from her own experience: the weight of expectations, the fear of failure, the isolation that comes from navigating worlds where you don't feel you belong. Maya smiled as she began typing her response, drawing on hard-won wisdom about resilience and the importance of accepting help when it's offered with genuine intention. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from lifting others up and allowing them to do the same for you. The letter she wrote that evening reflected the person Maya had become through her journey from betrayal to empowerment. "Dear Keisha," she began, "I understand exactly what you're feeling because I've been where you are now. Let me tell you what I've learned about turning obstacles into stepping stones and finding strength you never knew you possessed." As she continued writing, Maya realized that her story wasn't really about revenge or justice, though both had played important roles. It was about transformation, resilience, and the power that comes from choosing to build something beautiful from the pieces of a broken life. Eleanor would have been proud of the woman her daughter had become, not because of the wealth she had inherited, but because of the wisdom and compassion she had chosen to cultivate in response to life's most challenging lessons.